What's up, everybody? Oakland 93 in the place to be. Welcome to the Bennett Brothers Wrestling Corner, episode 3 of season 4. Uh, since you know, in New York, as of right now, there's basically the 2015 blizzard, northeastern blizzard. I believe it carried over from the Midwest slash central area, but it's now in my neck of the woods. So once again, just like I believe it was in 2010, or yeah, I believe it was 2010. We had the Northeast had a blizzard, and I believe it even canceled a Ring of Honor show at the time. Um, Knicks games got canceled, Nets game got canceled, and even Raw got canceled, which was supposed to take place in Hartford. I believe Hartford, Hartford, Connecticut, the Civic Center. Oh man, this wrestling corner. Um, I'm not going to say that there won't be some fun in this wrestling corner. I believe that there's always fun in the wrestling corner. But I definitely believe that this wrestling corner is going to be pretty potent in terms of discussion. If you do not know, which if you're a wrestling fan, I will be surprised that you do not know by now that the reaction of last night's Rumble, not even necessarily the whole event, just the match, has been, I even put in the description, has been reverberating. Yes, reverberating since it's been over. It's still reverberating until this day. And I'm not alone in this discussion. In this discussion, I'm going to be tagged along with my good friend, my partner in crime, Sly Cooper, 88, also known as Steve. That's right. I actually requested, I personally asked, Steve, how about you be on this wrestling corner? And I was talking with Chris last night. I even said that I actually insist on Steve being on this wrestling corner, and within good reason, really within good reason. Um, you know, if before I bring in Steve, if the Royal Rumble, match, if the reaction was not this big and wide and hostile as it is, this wrestling corner maybe would have been just, thoughts on the Royal Rumble and the idea that Nathan came up with, I think the retro pay-per-view, review concept. I made sure I said that it was going to start in 2015, and hopefully it was going to be like a monthly thing. But because of the Royal Rumble thing, it looks like it's going to skip January and it's going to start in February. So yeah, but without further ado, I think it's about damn time. Yeah, about damn time to bring in my good friend Steve. So Steve, if you're looking at your screen, there it is. There's the link. Come on, man. You gotta get yourself in here, man. Join the club. See if there's any commenting. Oh, nope, not yet. But I know that people are watching. People are watching. Any minute now, Steve should be coming here. I mean, heck, I can't even just say, the reaction to the Royal Rumble kind of put the skibosh to doing the retro pay-per-view idea. I also would have liked to talk about what happened on Impact Wrestling, but I know for sure that all of that is going to be overshadowed by the Royal Rumble. And I think not only should we talk about Impact Wrestling, I think starting next week, talk about NXT. I watch NXT. I like NXT, and I still feel that NXT, after watching it for a full year, is probably WWE's best weekly show. So I think it deserves to be talked about on the restaurant as like a regular thing, not after Takeover. Now, it's only been mostly when Takeover happens. But and I hope everybody's before the Rumble. I hope everybody's weekend was as easy as using a napkin. I really do. I mean, as you can see, I got this hood on. At first it wasn't that cold, here, and I even got heat on it, but it's still pretty cold. And I had to put an extra shirt on, and then underneath this hood. Oh, Steve. Oh, man. Oh, man. Steve. Hold on, guys. Reading a comment here. Oh, Steve. Steve. There are people waiting for your appearance, man. Man, where is this guy? I know he had to have seen that Linky. He just saw it. He just saw it. Okay. All right. As we get ready. All right, here we go. Here we go. Here we go.
Have I mentioned that I hate Mother Nature and my laptop both in convenient order? I'm sitting there, I'm looking at the link, and I don't know about anybody else when you guys are on Facebook, but you ever have that moment where you're on Facebook randomly, all of a sudden it starts debugging out and you can't see what the hell you're clicking on, so you gotta close the window, reopen it, sign back in, and then reread or try to find out where you lost your playset. I go into the Hangout, I think, okay, it'll open up a separate window. No, it's debugged everything. I'm like, man, I think my laptop's trying to commit hori-kori.
It's harakiri.
Whatever.
Always saying hori-kori. Almost every time you say that thing, what is that, like a sitcom about a prostitute? Hori-kori brought to you by Lifetime. Like,
It looks really weird because I'm used to having the goatee, and I decided to like actually try to be as clean shaven as I possibly can. For some odd reason, I'm just like, I'll shave off the goatee, like this week.
yeah, and that also beats you picking off your goatee hair.
Oh yeah, my stress plucking that I do so much. Also, I don't like it because for some odd reason, when I got the goatee, I look fine, but when I look clean shaven, it's now very obvious that, especially in the face, that my head is getting bigger.
Okay, I did not say anything, but okay.
No, no, I'm starting to no. I'm kind of angering myself because I'm like John Goodman.
Yeah, if our good friend Ian was here, that's what he would have compared you to.
Oh, but anyway, yeah. Let's not talk about yeah. Well, actually, we are going to talk about it, but yeah, let's not discuss about not even But I think the fact that there's not a Raw event is a good thing because I don't want to get too distracted from what I really got to get off my chest, guys, because and it's not just me, it's you as well, Malcolm, it's Chris, and it's a lot of the people that are in the Wrestling Corner chat on Facebook and YouTube and stuff who are actually who actually have a couple of things to say about a lot of this as well. But you and I always kind of like to play, I guess you could say, color commentating team, on these particular issues. But yeah, you and I, Malcolm, have been talking a lot. Have been talking a lot about a lot of the things that we're going to go into. And some of this we've alluded to on previous times I've been on the Wrestling Corner. Other times it's kind of even been alluded to on the Steve and Malcolm show. And a lot of other times that it's just been you and I chatting on Facebook, which is the Royal Rumble last night for a lot of people is pretty much the straw that broke the camel's back. I was reading. I think I've sent you like 2 articles now on what a lot of the reactions of fans in Philadelphia, and it's getting to the point to where I kind of have to laugh at it now because I was reading because at first there was a report reading about how fans were wanting to cancel the WWE network because a lot of people are getting tired of WWE not listening to their fans or flipping the bird to their fans, and I have to agree with them. I can't remember if it was Jamal. I think it was actually, Jamal Washington who made the point of why is it that WWE seems to consistently want to turn their fans against, a lot of their baby faces rather than using, the top tier talent that fans want them to push. I.e. Bryan, or I wouldn't say quite Ryback, even though Ryback in his promo did actually, get along with the crowd, but it's people like Ambrose, Ziggler and Bryan, who are pretty much the 3 most fan favorites in the company right now. And the thing that I kind of predict is the same thing that kind of what happened with Batista when he came back last year. I think, if anything, it's going to, I think, embitter Roman Reigns as not as an athlete, but just as a person, because But at the same time, I think it's going to anger Roman in a lot more ways than one. Because let's face it, if anybody who saw the Royal Rumble last night, or anybody who knows about practically every Samoan wrestler that has ever wrestled for WWE, they're all connected. They're all family. And The Rock wasn't there to save Roman out of coincidence. And in real life, guys, they're actually cousins. So
Right.
there's a lot of speculation that Roman only won the Rumble and is going to WrestleMania, not because he's talented, not because he still is a work in progress, but a lot of people are saying that this hyper push that Roman is getting is WWE's way of kissing The Rock's ass. And you know, and I can say that there is some truth to that, speculatively, but also I think it's the fact that legitimately, Roman has kind of proven, at least somehow, to WWE upper management and talent that, he has what it takes, but at the same time, you and I and Chris and a lot of other people have said this, Malcolm, as good as Reigns is right now, he is not very well polished. He could really do a lot better on his mic skills. His in ring work, while good, is not really, shall we say, solidified. So he should deserve to be in the main event status, but he shouldn't be the guy winning the Rumble and going to WrestleMania. That's just too big of a push too soon.
I mean, we'll get on. We'll get further on with the whole Rumble thing. I do kind of want to give my thoughts on everything else that happened, even though it's been overshadowed by the Rumble. Well, I can't say the WWE title match has been necessarily overshadowed, but let's kick off with the first match. I didn't watch the pre-show. I don't really watch pre-show. I think the last pre-show I ever watched was when you had, I think the SummerSlam, when you had Ambrose defending his United States title against RVD. But you had the pre-show, New Day versus Tyson Kinstar, which I'm not gonna lie, I didn't watch the match. I am that tag team is starting to grow on me. I do see some potential with that team, but one thing that stood out about this Rumble, and I even said it on the last Wrestling Corner, this was the most tag team matches I've ever seen on a Rumble. The Rumble most time only has the tag team championship on the line, and that's basically it. This Rumble, if you count the pre-show, had 4 tag team matches. And the kick it off was basically the Attitude Era versus, I guess, this generation, or NXT, if you want to put it like that. The Ascension versus the New Age Outlaws. I predicted the Ascension to get the rub, and they did. But to be quiet, this was a case that I believe just because you get the rub does not make it impressive, because that match, I was watching it. I was watching with my cousin Javon. He was just waking up from a nap, and he saw a little bit of ending. He was like, "How was that match?" I was like, "Man, that was not a good way to open up the show." I'm not gonna lie, Billy looked good. Even though he made some weird sound, he did his tilt-a-whirl slam. I'm like, what the? But
But yeah, that I will admit, looking back at the match and looking back at Road Dogg, I now understood, because guys, Malcolm made the joke. He goes, "Man, I think Road Dogg needs to hang it up," and I was like, wait a minute, what do you mean? And then I'll rewatch the match, and I'm like, oh no, he's becoming like, part-time Hacksaw and, Dusty Rhodes before they finally hung it up. It's like, oh man, it's like Road Dogg just it's like the crowd just was kind of looking at Road Dogg like okay, they're purposely laying down for the shaky leg drop. It's like literally he got winded doing the shake, rattle, and roll. He got winded, and I'm just like, yeah, just tag in Billy.
I mean, and even on the Ascensions part, I was not too impressed. I mean, when they had the Heat segment, the Ascension in control, I didn't even really feel anything. I'm like, okay. And even the ending.
And these guys were like the shit in NXT, so it's like I'm not liking how they're building the Ascension up. I get, and we go to the whole them possibly fighting every legendary tag team and this and that and other stuff, and honestly, I get that they're trying to draw heat and that they're trying to be like, the cocky, arrogant tag team that's like, well, we're taking all the mockers of the other tag teams, but we're doing it in a way that we're basically disrespecting them. And it's like we've talked about, Malcolm, you and I and a few other people. I'm not feeling WWE creative really going that route with the Ascension. I mean, it could work in the Ascension's, favor, but I think that a lot of the people doing the scripts and stuff like that and the booking and stuff really kind of need to be very careful, because there's still a lot of fans that still and we're talking about the overly passionate ones that don't use their head, that they pretty much just want the Ascension gone by this point. Whereas people like you and I who, read between the lines, we're just like, this is going to be really bad booking because they're going against guys that, are kind of, shall we say, out of their prime and more than rightfully deserve to be retired. I mean, what's next? They're going to get Scott Hall with a walker and, Nash to the ring to have, like, the outsiders face the Ascension. I mean, I'm sorry. I realize that Scott's a legend. I mean, come on, this is the bad guy. This is Razor Ramon, but still, is this really the route that they need to go with the Ascension just to get them to prove their heel mantle?
Exactly.
I mean, but I mean, don't get me wrong though. The New Age Outlaws, that's a good start. That's a tag team. Okay, they're well versed. People know who they are, so it's a good starting point.
It is a good starting point, but like I said, I think this was a case of, I bet when we do these things and we do like kind of guess fantasy booking and stuff, and we say, yeah, we know for sure that, yeah, if we had so and so defeat a legend, that really helped them out. And I think this is one of those cases where, yeah, you can have the newcomer beat the legend, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's all about the match performance. I mean, let's use Orton for example. What got Orton over? The Legend Killer gimmick. And yeah, he had some matches with Sergeant Slaughter, and even yeah, he had a match with Sergeant Slaughter. But when he had that match with Mick Foley, that really stood out because it was a good performance. It was like, okay. But with a performance like that, that just showed that, yeah, like how you put it, Scott Hall versus Scott Hall and Kevin Nash, the outsiders. Okay, yeah, name-wise, star value, man, that good looks good on the resume. But that doesn't mean the fans are going to buy it if the match is not good. Because they're like, oh, but man, Scott Hall and Kevin Nash, they barely can do anything. It's like being Hacksaw Jim Duggan now. It's not all that impressive.
It's like basically having a squash match with King now. It defeats the purpose.
I mean, like, yeah, like, for instance, when Jericho at WrestleMania 25, when kind of WWE was basically promoting The Wrestler, which is a good movie, by the way. Even wrestling fan or not, that's a movie to watch. And they had Jericho. Look, I was going Jericho and Mickey Rourke they was doing stuff on CNN, and it led to Jericho facing Snuka, Piper, and Steamboat. And at the time, with Flair in there, at the time, I'm thinking, Jericho's caliber and his WrestleMania, I'm not so sure what does that really do, him going against Snuka, Piper, and Steamboat. But little did I know, and something maybe told that Houston crowd, because once Steamboat got tagged in, they started going crazy. And he hopped up on that top rope. And then that's where I'm like, okay, if Jericho beats Steamboat, now it's impressive because Steamboat's still going. But you got Snuka, looking like, what does somebody look like? He just came straight out of the Thriller music
like
video.
as you put it, Malcolm, one of the zombies out of the Thriller video, specifically Michael Jackson's zombie form.
And Piper, who barely could do it, he did a drop kick in and looked bad. And I think of that, I'm like, if Steamboat didn't have that type of form, it would be like, okay, Jericho beats.
And the funny part is that led to a rematch at Backlash between just Jericho and Steamboat, and that ended up not being a very bad match.
Yeah, which if in retrospect you would look at and say, you know what, that should have just rather been on WrestleMania instead. Because Backlash 2009, which was the last Backlash, is one hell of a pay-per-view. From top to bottom. That is a good pay-per-view. No lie. So, yeah, the Ascension seems like they're going with this route. I was thinking that, Animal was going to come, but I'm thinking, who's he going to get to join his side to make another makeshift LOD team? You know,
And
last time he
that's the thing that kind of really saddens me too, is that it made me think, it's like, man, the Ascension are saying that they're better than that, and it started to make me reminisce and actually miss Hawk. It's like, oh man, just one more time, see, the Road Warriors as tag champions, or even then, you know, it, I doubt that they. I think it would go like of course the 50-50 booking, which we'll kind of get in, which that'll go into part of my tirade, probably in a little bit. But it would have been kind of cool if Hawk was still alive, to actually see the Road Warriors take on the Ascension, and it would have been so much fun to watch. The Road Warriors just tear the Ascension a new butthole. It really would had, because anybody who is a new wrestling fan, nobody who has ever heard of the Road Warriors, go on YouTube right now and just look up like even clips of the matches. There is a reason that they always and forever will be one of my favorite like legendary tag teams.
yeah, there are some cases when a person has a squash match, you don't find their offense believable to be so dominant. But you watch those roads, just seeing clips of them, that's how they got their reputation because fans really believe that these two guys can just walk in, beat the crap of whoever they're in the ring with, and walk out unscathed. And it's like, no, that was legit.
And honestly, if they weren't retired, hell, I would even love to see Demolition take them on, because you want to talk about a good paradigm to the Road Warriors? Demolition also had that.
Well, I think one of them is still wrestling, unfortunately. Just like how the Rock and Roll Express are.
Oh God, don't remind me of the Rock and Roll Express. Good Lord, I looked at it. I forget which one. I think it was Robert Gibson. Just I looked at that blonde hair. I'm like,
Oh,
good
no, that's Ricky
Lord.
Morton.
Yeah. I looked at Ricky Morton. I'm like, good God. Like his hair doesn't even look real anymore. It looks like one of those like giant like kabuki wigs that you see in like Oriental theater. I'm just I'm just like, man, it's so greasy and like skin lice felt.
I mean,
I was watching a show one time, Malcolm, where frickin' they had him and Nash fighting, and I was like, oh man, this is gonna be the most boring match that I've ever seen in my life.
oh,
Nash barely got his leg up to do a big boot, and Morton walks right into his foot, and I swear I saw part of the grease fly out of his long blonde locks, and it hit some guy in the front row, and the guy's face is just like,
I mean, I mean, like, I think at the end of the road, I still see the Ascension versus the Usos, which I know will be a good match because I did
and
enjoy
man,
when the Usos
I,
came
I,
down.
I, w- I was so scared that the Usos weren't going to do, weren't going to do their chant, because there for a while, I think like once or twice, they didn't do the chant thing, and I'm like, that's a signature part of their entrance. That's like
Yeah,
something unique to them.
yeah, I'm not really too much of a big fan of lately. WWE's been kind of, I guess, shortening the Usos, and like sometimes it's just boom, the fire comes out, and then the music. I'm like, hey, where's with the chant? That's what makes their entrance unique, not the pyro, just that chant that makes them stand out, and that's a good segue because that was the next match, the tag team championship match, and you know, we've seen Miz down and Miz go get well. Let's face it, mostly Miz versus the Usos uh, for the tag team championship, and I still think that their best match was the match that the Usos finally got the belts again, which was a surprise because that Raw was not all that good, but that match really stood out. This match, I'm not gonna lie, the ending was pretty unique with the Usos with the power bomb and then the super kick, And then the splash, I was like, okay, that's pretty unique. And Usos had new gear. They had white and silver. And their makeup looked even more, like you even put, Steve, looked even more tribal.
Yeah, it's just like I said. It's like I looked at the Usos and I actually for a moment almost like peed my pants with terror. I'm like, oh shoot, they look like they actually had that ancient tribal warrior look. And it's like I said on the Wrestling Corner chat on Facebook watching the Rumble. I'm like I'm like I totally dig this. They need to actually start coming out more like that. Or like save that specifically for pay-per-views because that was kind of really cool looking.
Yeah, that's like Finn Balor. In his career, he saves the whole paint, war paint for like big time matches. And speaking of, just kind of a little bit, even though it's in the same topic, but like with paint, that I've said it before and I say it again. I like, see, since Steve, you don't have Destination America, but the Wolves have added some paint onto them. They've added. I remember when I first saw, I really thought that, what happened to their chest? They really get clawed. They actually added like a claw mark, a bloody claw mark across their chest. I was like, oh, that's pretty unique. That really makes them even more stand out. So, that's a new way of using the paint instead of just, painting your face. And I think it was Chris that said it. We was watching the last Impact. He was like, man, Davey really looks like a wolf. I'm like, yeah, of all the wolves, Davey Richards, he fits that wolf mentality. He looks like, yeah, he's about to like go on a freaking prowl. I mean, he really looks like a wolf. But the Usos, they retain, and that's good. We can all see the writing on the wall that eventually this Miz and Mizdow thing is going to come to
I
an
think the
come to
Rumble
an
match
end.
proved that quite honestly that eventually soon, yeah, they're going to be gone. Because I mean, you saw, because I mean, we saw Sandow impersonating X-Pac, which that was freaking hilarious to me.
Mm-hmm.
And then we saw him actually leave the Miz, after he got his ass booted off of the apron, went into the Rumble, ended up getting eliminated just as quickly anyway. And I just love when he's sitting there back and forth with Miz.
Oh yeah,
Like going back and forth. It's like, are you kidding me? It's
yeah,
like
yeah,
you were
you
supposed to
get
give
me.
me your spot.
I mean, but I'm trying to really look at this. As much as Mizdow has become more over than the Miz, I'm wondering, doesn't that kind of defeats the Mizdow character if you break him away from Miz? Because that's what got him actually over.
Well, then
He
again, it didn't work for some people. Just like a certain, spiky brown blonde haired person who's on the panel only does color commentating now. Who didn't really go anywhere, mind you.
and to this day, I will always say that I felt bad when Riley did not at least get a United States run. Because I'm like, what was the point of having him beat Miz if nothing was going to come out of it? But, oh, there's one more thing I wanted to say about this Ascension. And I think I said it before. I believe it was, but no, somebody brought up in the comment. I think it was Shadow God for you. I think, no, not Shadow God for you, not Devin. Invictus, Tony. He said that when the Ascension got basically obliterated by the Legends, that was the end of the Ascension experiment. And at the time, I was not against anybody that thought that, yep, that was the end of the Ascension, because that just looked like, yep, all right, we're done with this, let's move on. And that's why that win at the Run was a must win, because man, that would have been looked like, yep, that would have been kind of an arguable case. A Raw could say, yep, that what happened on Raw was a burial. That was the burial of the Ascension right there. That was it. So they really needed that win. And once again, it's another tag match, and it was the Bellas versus Natty and Paige, which Steve actually admitted was turning him on.
I'm sorry. It's just all four of those women for some odd reason. I was like sitting there like Jerry O'Connell in the movie Tomcats. I'm like, I am scared yet strangely aroused.
I mean, the reason why I round out the re thanks to my good friend Nate. The reason why this match was not as I thought it would be, a triple threat match for the championship was because Nikki was hurt. But then it makes me wonder how hurt was she, because she did work a good portion of that match. Also when somebody's
Yeah,
hurt in a tag match, they don't work the whole match. They'll maybe come in, come out, and come in. No, Nikki worked a good portion of that match. And I was like, okay, maybe she healed up. And I have to agree with Nate. If you really look at that match, that was basically a glorified squash. Because once Paige got tagged back out and Natty came back in, and it was all the Bellas, there was no comeback sequence, no nothing. Natty pushes Nikki off, and then Paige looks like she's going to get the hot tag, gets pulled off, and then wham, forearm, 1, 2, 3. I was like, man, it wasn't even a comeback sequence. That was almost like a squash match.
and we have to call, and I have to call bullshit on this, and I think you and everybody else can too. Um, So basically, we're confirming that Bree is pretty much going heel and teaming with her sister now. There's no backstabbing, no nothing. That's pretty much going to happen. That
Yeah,
that opportunity is pretty much gone.
right, there does not see there does not seem to be, does not look like there's any signs of, that, yes, that Bree now has Nikki, around her finger. I mean, that's why for the website divadirt.com, for all people that are, really into women's wrestling, that was the WTF moment of the year. Bree is even listed. Bree turns heel without any explanation. We still, till this day, don't have any explanation as to why she chose Survivor Series to say, hey, after all the crap, you cost me one of the biggest matches of my life and all this, I'm now just going to join you with some little bit of hot lesbian action on AJ to really seal it off with a kiss. We still got any explanation, and I think if somebody had brought it up. Another thing, and it's like when Brian first was guest GM, everybody thinking, oh, there's gonna be some segment where he's questioning Bree's action. We didn't get any of that, and we still never got any of that. Like Brian, like, what the hell are you doing? Like, it's just, yeah. I think it's like, yeah, we're not going to try to explain anything. Like, so even if the twist does happen that Bree was sent up, it's going to come out like, well, you could have fooled me because it looked like you was fully healed with Nikki. Again, this is not the first time the Bellas have been heels before at the same time. This is like the zillionth time. I mean, so no, it just felt weird to the point where if that was going to be the match, we were like, I still feel, I stand by my opinion, it was a glorified squad. I don't think it had any business to be on the pay-per-view. Because it was just Natalya just getting worked over. When they said Natalya got dominated, I had to agree, like, yeah, Natalya really did get dominated in that match.
And honestly, against the Bellas, I mean, so basically they're now trying to downgrade Natty, which to me, that kind of depresses me a little bit because I'm like, this woman is she's pretty much, at least to my knowledge, and they keep saying it, she's the only woman to have trained in the Heart Dungeon. This woman, is the daughter of Jim the Anvil Neihart, one part of the Heart Foundation, and she's now basically the beatdown dummy for a squash match. I'm like, something about that to me just does not seem right, and especially considering that NXT Women's Championship match that she had with Charlotte. So it's like, we know that Natty can go, so that was just a case of, oh well, we're trying to get the Bellas over. So we're just gonna take one of our best divas and just basically make her a squash dummy.
When I look at it, because Michael Cole was trying to do a good job addressing the message, but I don't think the match executed the message that I guess they were trying to get across, that the Bellas have been a team basically all their life. So they have the better advantage in terms of tag team against a makeshift. I get that, but I'm one to always feel that I like it more when the cohesive tag team, the established tag team wins most of the time against the makeshift. Because now in WWE and wrestling, just period, most of the time the makeshift comes together and bam, they beat the established tag team in their first try. I'm thinking, that's kind of interesting. But I don't think the match execution really gave off that message that the Bellas are the better team because Natalya and Paige, they're more individual. I think it did not get that message across as good as I guess it was supposed to. And then when Nikki won with the forearm, I said, so her and Barrett got the same move. I was like, so her and Barrett they both have the same finishing move.
It was a mess.
Yeah, I just don't, I'm a big fan of Natty. And look, I don't hate the Bells. I'm not their biggest fan, though, but like I said, I've always acknowledged that, yes, they have improved. They have really come, especially Nikki has come into her own. She has her own move set now. It's not just jumping snapmare, and then a sit-out facebuster, which is why I say Bree needs to change her finisher because I'm sorry, that sit-out facebuster, I always think of that as the generic WWE women's finisher. Till this day, that is the generic WWE women's finisher. X Factor. It's always there. But now, moving on from, the Bellas and what did somebody call Paige and Natty, the Black Hearts? We move on to the WWE Championship match. I'm still not really too much of the WWE World Heavyweight. I still call it the WWE Championship. And for people that watched the Wrestling Corner prior to the Rumble, I've always said that I felt that the match dynamic was an interesting one. I thought Cena, Rollins, Lesnar. That's a pretty unique match dynamic. That pretty much is. There's a lot that could happen with those three type of people. And I'm not gonna lie, that match it did not come to a screeching halt at any point. Well, and unless when it looked like Brock Lesnar didn't know what to do next, which he for some reason since he's come back always been the case. There's a point in time where it looked like this guy does not know what to do. But the match started off hot and heavy, and typical. I was watching my cousin Javon, and he is one that is sick and tired of Brock Lesnar only look like the only move he knows how to do now, except for F5, is German suplex. German suplex. German suplex. He was already again, like really again, like just a German again, but I'm not gonna lie. When he actually grabbed both JJ Security and German them both, I know somebody will go, but it's Jamie Noble and Mercury. That should be nothing to Brock. True, but I still have yet to ever see that
German suplex them in each individual arm.
That's never been done before. The closest that's ever seen like a double German has always been, which started with Kurt Angle and Orton and Rey Mysterio when Orton grabbed Rey and then Angle grabbed Orton and then he German technically both of them. And then Benoit did it on Eminem.
Yeah, and it's always like like the steam train deal. No, this was him grabbing Noble and Mercury like they were sacks of potatoes and then throwing them over his shoulders.
Right, and Mercury fell on his damn head. He really did.
When I looked at that, I was like, okay, we've now seen a different variation for like, a double team move, by
Right.
one person. And honestly, yeah, all he seems to know how to do now is German suplexes. But even anybody who had seen at least that particular spot in the match has to admit, if it was not done by anybody else, then Brock, it wouldn't have really had looked legit.
Right. I mean, even Jay Vaughn, he was like, okay, he was like, whoa. And then when he went back doing regular German, he was like, oh, man. But yeah, there's one thing, whether you're a fan or you're not a fan of Brock Lesnar or Borky or Bork Laser. Paul Heyman even addressed it in his when he was a guest of Stone Cold's podcast when they were talking about ring psychology and who has good ring psychology, and he brought up Brock Lesnar, and he said because Brock Lesnar, his moveset is very believable, and yes, even when he first came, 2002, yeah, Brock's moveset is believable. It's like, whoa, look what this guy can do, and it's not like it's phony. Same thing with Kurt Angle. Kurt Angle when he's aggressive or anything, I don't know. I really take that seriously. I'm not like, oh, that's just an act. I'm like, no, no. I bet you Kurt really wanted to. He can really kill somebody. Same thing for Brock. If he really wanted to, he can really hurt somebody. And he almost hurt Rollins. There was one German super, and they kept showing it over and over. Rollins, I don't know if Rollins tried to twist out of it. I don't know what, but he landed all on his shoulder and the side of his head. And I'm like, ooh, I'm like, Jesus, bro, you trying to kill him?
But I will admit, though, while I am not the biggest fan of Rollins, I will admit Rollins was pretty much the highlight reel of that match.
Rollins,
He elbow dropped Brock through a table, and we actually saw him, actually use the briefcase, almost try to knock out Brock, hit him with two curb stomps, almost practically one after the other. Stopping Cena. It's like, Rollins actually did a lot better than Cena and Brock did, but I think probably the biggest highlight, and yeah, he did kind of botch it, but even my jaw kind of dropped when I actually saw him do a Phoenix splash. I was like, okay, that's a big match move.
that's a big match move. That is not I've never tried it, but I can tell just by the look of it, that is not an easy move to learn.
Essentially, it's just like, Neville's Red Arrow. It's a move that you really have to be athletic to try to pull off.
Yeah, I mean, um, you know, when it came down to, after Cena kicked out of I think he kicked out of the curb stomp, and Rollins like he was at wit's end. And when Chris came back from work, he was watching it, and he was like, he don't even know what to do anymore. He even heard Rollins go, "Fuck!" Like, what do I do? I got Brock over here laid down. I got Cena here, and he starts to clown thing. He gonna do a moonsault. Next thing I'm like, whoa! And then out of the blue, Brock just pops up like nothing ever happened.
Yeah,
And
he
I'm
was
not.
down for like 20 minutes. They were gonna like do a dill, and then he just German suplexes.
He German suplexes Rollins. German suplexes Cena, which sends Cena out the ring. And then all of that. But, speaking of Brock kind of popping up and everything, I remember I was in the kitchen. I was prepping up. So I was prepping up some food for myself and my cousin. And then Javon, you know, it all started when Brock got FU'd. I'm sorry, I don't call it the AA. He got FU'd, and he got back up. Got FU'd again. He got back up. And that's when Jay was like, are you kidding me? I mean, seriously? And then what's even funny that when Cena hit the third one, Brock was still going to kick out even though Rollins broke up the pin. Brock was still going to kick out. He kicked out anyway. And then he gets curb stomped and, kicks out. Then Cena plows him through the barricade. Cena using his football background. And Brock gets up, I think, like within a minute after that spot, and I'm like, what? I'm like, okay. Then Cena throws him into the steps hard. He gets back up again, like nothing ever
And
happened.
it's just like I was saying in the chat. I'm like, okay, come
Yeah,
on, this is
yeah.
getting ridiculous.
I had the chat at the time. The chat room closed because for some odd reason, most time when the network from my personal experience, when it pauses and it replays and it resumes, it will skip to where it's currently at. But that wasn't the case for some odd reason. When it paused and resumed, it wouldn't do that. So I was basically delayed. So when Steve and everybody was commenting on the match, I had to put that thing closed. I'm like, I'm like 2 minutes or a minute off. So I don't want to get spoiled. But then when I look back, when finally that thing was over, I finally got back to where it was, and I see Seeds comment, "Oh, come on," and like we get it. Brock is super. Yeah, they really, really pushed that.
I mean, the only thing that would have made it even more hilarious is if right when Rollins is about ready to put Brock down, if Brock, unfortunately, he's all upper body, no lower body. But all they had to do is simply put, oh yeah, he's gonna rise like one of the zombies out of the Thriller video, just arms right up like he's like the Undertaker or Kane back in the Attitude Era, because that's what it felt like. It
I mean,
felt like I'm just like, come on, this is stupid. And then and all I kept thinking as Brock's taking all these hits, Malcolm, all I heard in the back of my mind was Chris, sell, damn it, sell.
I mean, when no, it was funny. Yo, Chris was funny when he finally watched the match, and and when he was just doing the Germans and those, I guess you would have called suplexes that Brock were doing, those regular suplexes. And and when Brock come get it back up, here come Chris. Man, just get out of here, man. Just go. Just go, man. Like just go. And so, when Rollins hit the elbow, which was a great spot. I mean, he looked like it wasn't like the Shane McMahon. I don't know. It looked like freaking Rollins, like some superhero gliding through the air,
You know what it
and then he
reminded
just
me of
dropped
when
the
he
elbow.
did that elbow drop, though? That elbow drop, for some reason, it made me think back to the Kurt Angle Shawn Michaels match from WrestleMania 21. Was it WrestleMania 20? I think it was 20.
No, I was 21.
Okay, so I was right. Yeah,
Oh,
that there was a very big Shawn Michaels type influence in that elbow drop.
right. One of the biggest spots from WrestleMania 21 was Kurt Angle was on the announcement table, and Shawn did his springboard crossbody, but Kurt wasn't staying on the announce table. And I remember first seeing that, I'm like, whoa, that was off the chain. Same thing for Rollins. And so, they really pushed this Brock through, because, I mean, the ending. He got hit two straight times with the briefcase. And I'm thinking, oh, shoot, Rollins is going to have it. And then then Brock just gets right back up like nothing ever happened. I'm like,
And he had
okay.
the perfect opportunity to probably cash in on Brock, and he didn't even do it.
Yeah, and if you look at it, it's like I thought a cash in was going to happen. But then once I saw Brock, just getting back up after the match, oh, I'm like, they ain't going to be no okay. Because like, he's not even showing any effects of the freak. They say he got a broken rib and everything. He's not showing no effects of that. I'm like, there's no way no cash is going to. And the crowd actually gave, well, if you notice or not, they gave Rollins a standing ovation when he was sitting up. That's what the crowd was clapping for. They actually gave him a good ovation. Now I know I don't hear that a lot for the heel, but once again, this is Philly. Philly is an ECW crowd where when they see a good performance, no matter who it is, they're going to give you what they feel that you
And even
deserve.
I have to admit, even I have to tip my hat to Rollins because I don't like Rollins. I just, and it's not because of his heel and stuff. I'm not convinced of Rollins, even though he's got the talent. even though he's got the talent, I'm just not sold on Rollins being like, I guess you could say, the future
You mean Sylvester?
person in WWE. But I think after that match, at the Rumble, I'm like, okay, it's like, Rollins did actually prove me wrong. It's like maybe he does actually have, a little bit of something, something.
Yeah, because let's face it, with him being a sleaze bag and everything, they could have just whipped with the route of where I thought it was. He was just going to sit back and relax, barely do anything, and maybe actually legitimately, blatantly lose for he can just cash it in. No, Rollins, and that's one thing I actually liked about the triple threat match. It was a triple threat match. There was some moments where you usually get one on one, but for the majority, before Brock got taken out, everything, it was all three men doing something at the same time. Come on, Simon. Some people will call it a triple threat match or fair play. It's just a glorified one-on-one match. You just got separate one-on-one matches. That wasn't the case. I actually like when triple threat matches don't go with that route. It's just somebody gets thrown out the ring, then these two go at it. They get thrown out the ring. They go to it. And they keep switching up. No, there was a lot of points where it was just all three of them. And as much as I'm not big of a fan of all that superhuman no selling, the match was good. I really enjoyed the match. I was into every near fall, even though you had Steve. And I'm not gonna lie, I don't blame her. If I see Cena do one more F, because let's face it, because Cena had to do 3 FUs on Brock Lesnar, which for some reason, when he does the FU on Brock Lesnar, it doesn't even look effect. It just looks like, wow.
Yeah. I had to love that Jamal, getting all overly emotional. Just like if I see him do one more AA, I'm gonna throw up. And I just typed in as quick as I could. I'm like, well, then you better get a bucket pronto.
Yeah, I mean, we saw 2 F5s. We saw four. We saw no, actually count 5 because he hit JJ in security with. So we saw 5 FUs. We saw, I think, 2 curb stomps. And I'm not gonna lie, Brock Lesnar. I think he feels because he has the head for it that he just takes that curb stomp. He does not jump up like how Cena does. I guess like to really lessen the blow. No, when Brock gets the curb stomp, it's a stomp. It's freaking Rollins' head, foot on his head and just stomping it into the mat. I mean, I'm like, that's why Chris laughs every time Rollins get curb stomped because he just finds it funny. And the match was really good. And I've always said, I said it after the ending of Monday on Monday Night Raw, because they added that what's Brock gonna do when he get his hands on Rollins thing. I really think that really put um the Cena's involvement like in the back burner. Like it was almost like after that I was like, I'm really more want to see what Brock gonna do to Rollins when he gets his hands on instead of what Cena's going to do. You can argue that Cena was kind of put kind of behind in the terms of the build up after a while, but in terms of match, Cena did his thing. He did a good Michinoku driver. He did a good pop up sit out powerbomb.
That actually still shocked me when I saw him do a Michinoku driver. I was like, okay. I'm like, Cena's trying to add, every once in a while, like 1 or 2 moves just to show people, yeah, I'm not just the 5 moves of doom.
No, you know what's funny? Uh, King doesn't even know the Michinoku driver, even though he's seen Taka Michinoku do it in after. I remember you had I think Cesaro did it, and then he had Cole Michinoku driver, and then later here comes King. Well, what did you call that move, Cole? Michinoku driver. I'm like, King, what's wrong with you? Like you've seen the Michinoku driver before. I thought he was gonna say it again. What was that move? Like, so Brock retains.
What would have been funny is what would have made that even funnier is if all of a sudden out of nowhere here comes Scott Steiner. That's going to be edited, right?
Oh yeah. That's gonna yeah, that's gonna be edited, right? Oh wait, we got some comments here. This was 31 minutes ago about Nathan. The Wrestling Corner Insider. WWE has announced that Kane will face Bryan in a casket match on this Thursday's live WWE SmackDown. So
Yeah, I was reading
I'm
that
really
too.
thinking that WWE is making SmackDown Bryan's show. I'm starting to get that vibe. They're trying to make that his show. Because lately, as who's been the main event guy, every time Bryan's in a big match, they advertise, yeah, this week on SmackDown, Bryan got. I'm like, yeah, I think they're trying to make SmackDown Bryan's show. Just like how I still feel that at one point SmackDown was Eddie's show. It was Eddie Guerrero's show. And we got Danny Nibfree before Hunico became Sin Cara. Uh, Before he became Sin Cara, Cole was talking about a Sin Cara comic book in Mexico. Has anyone got a hold of? No, but that is actually true. Sin Cara and Mystico, the original Sin Cara, yeah, his popularity is so popular, or I think it still is, was so popular that yeah, he got a comic book. He was looked up as a superhero, which is not uncommon in the
It's
lucha
not
libre
uncommon
culture.
when you look at Lucha Libre, because Lucha Libre, the vibrant culture, they do look like superheroes or supervillains or like demons or any kind of other, like I guess you could say force.
Right.
If you want a great example of Lucha Libre at its finest, watch Lucha Underground, which is a favorite of me, Malcolm's, and Nate's.
The funny thing is, I know I would get into um, Lucha Underground, but I still have yet to watch the actual show, unfortunately. And I actually found out that some TV station is actually showing some things of New Japan Pro Wrestling. So for those that really want to see how it goes down in Japan, the land of the rising sun, yeah, I forget which station it is. I remember I was just watching Impact and it had suggestions said New Japan Pro Wrestling. I'm like, wait, oh shoot, what was going on here? What's going on here? So yeah, the whole thing about Sin Cara having his own comic book, that's not false. That's an actual, as Tyson Kidd would say, fact. Um, so yeah, Brock Lesnar, which was his second title defense, and he's had the belt since August. Believe that. If you see how that hear that sounds, he's had the belt since August, but that was his second title. Because for some reason Brock is like excluded from the 30-day rule. The traditional 30-day rule, which WWE only brings whenever they feel it fits for the occasion. Because they did it for Bryan when he was hurt, but Lesnar, yeah, I guess he's Lesnar. Now we move on to basically the meat of the story, the scene of the crime, as it seems to be the scene of the crime, the Royal Rumble. The Royal Rumble match. Which, look, going into the match, looking forward to it because I felt this year, unlike the other years, it was not too obvious to me who was going to win. There was a lot of picks. There was a lot of favorites. There was a lot of believable people that could win. Ambrose, Rollins in it. Ambrose, Bryan, even Bray Wyatt, Reigns,
Ziggler, who we all thought
Ziggler,
was the obvious choice.
Ziggler. So it felt good going into this match, knowing that hey, it's not a really no,
And the
there's no real
surprise participants were even fun this year.
there was no it was unpredictable. It was no oh I know who's the clear cut winner of this match. It's so obvious who's going to win. It really had the feeling of as it should be for a Rumble. You don't know who's going to win. You might have an idea who will win, but even when the match happens, you're like, oh, this person might not win it here. And I think it was, oh man, who was it? I think, I'm trying to think. I think it was somebody in the chat that said, and once again, because I was delayed by like a couple of minutes, when Steve and everybody else watching this that was in the chat, when you guys were posting everything that was happening in the Rumble, I had to close that thing down because I was going to get spoiled. I remember Javon, he was like, man, tell those guys to shut up. tell those guys to shut up because they're about to spoil everything. And I'm like, I had to put it on mute and everything. I'm like, I freaking closed it. Like, man, because they're going to spoil everything because we're freaking delayed. And I didn't want to hit live because I didn't want to skip anything. Like, I didn't want to miss anything. So when everybody said Miz and R-Truth are starting, when that happened, Lillian was still giving the freaking rules of the match. I'm like, wait. I'm like, I didn't know R-Truth and Miz is already started. I'm like, oh. And I think somebody said, yeah, Miz and R-Truth, number one, number two. That's a good way to get the crowd hot. And I'm like, yeah, that's a good use of sarcasm because the current.
No. I mean, even when you scroll back to the comments later, you just hear me in all seriousness just go, okay, pee break time.
Yeah. So see, when you said that, I didn't know what you was referring to because I'm like, okay, what is Steve referring to? I'm thinking, was he talking about the video package for the Rumble? I'm like, what is he talking about? So yeah, the Rumble started with R-Truth and Miz. And you know what's funny? I believe this is the second time that R-Truth and Miz have started off the Rumble. I think this is the second time they start off the Rumble together. And yeah, that was not a good way to get the crowd hot. R-Truth, who barely has any momentum, he does. He maybe can't even see it. And the Miz, who's been totally overshadowed by Miz, that despite trying to be a wannabe Johnny Cage. So yeah, that was not a hot way to start off the Rumble. But with number 3, yeah, it got cooking. Most I'm surprised entries they do not come that early, but this time it did. Number 3, who I'm not gonna lie, I was shocked, but at the same time I wasn't shocked. I figured
Yeah,
like,
I read a dirt sheet that kind of said that this person was coming, and I thought that the person associated with this person is coming, but they're saying that that person associated with them might become a trainer for NXT, and oh boy, Malcolm, all I gotta say is I feel bad for the talent because they're going to be slipping and sliding around the ring.
yeah, I mean, so yeah, but basically what we're saying is number 3 was Bully, are now back to finally being Bubba Ray Dudley. Great reaction. What a better way for him to make a surprise return to WWE than in Philly. The city of brotherly love, Philadelphia.
The birth
ECW
of
territory.
ECW.
Yes, the home of ECW. I mean, it was cool to see him back in the traditional Dudley glasses and in the traditional Dudley camo gear.
And it
Um,
was fun because we got the What's Up headbutt, even though they didn't do the What's Up thing. And I'm not gonna lie, it felt really freaking weird to actually see him and R-Truth do the 3D.
yeah, and I remember Chris saw that, and I don't know if it was because of R-Truth's lift or because the Miz leaned in so much because at first I thought, oh, he's about to botch the 3D. All you hear is in the front, you hear the Miz, you got to lift up. Ooh. I'm like, ooh.
No, no, the thing, no, and it is kind of true. They were supposedly saying that Devon was gonna appear as well, which I was like, oh, that would have been cool. But even then, the whole deal that, oh yeah, Devon's, about possibly to retire this year, and he may become a trainer for NXT, and I thought, that could actually work. Except for, like I said, the talent's going to be running around like it's a slip and slide, because of all that sweat that rusted, the TNA TV title.
Yeah, yeah. For those that don't know what we're referring to, Even though Devon, no, you know what? I can't even say it's always been a case for Devon. For some reason, once his final couple of years in TNA, that's when I really started like, yo, do you see how much Devon sweats? And you know what? I think his sweating even increased because and you know what? TNA barely bring it, but I'm gonna bring it up here. If you guys have not forgotten about Aces and Eights, if you have not, I'm kind of surprised. 'Cause I bet you there's a lot of people that just want to forget about Aces and Eights. But when he was on Aces and Eights, he wrestled with so many layers. So it made his sweating worse. He wrestled with jeans, the Aces and Eights shirt, a flannel, and the vest. Look at all that layers, all those layers, and those hot lights. And it's like, so when he was TV champion, he barely defended it. Yeah, me and Stu's always make the joke like, yeah, and the TV title just collecting all the sweat and collecting all the rust because of Devon's freaking sweat. And that's why that was the explanation for why D'Lo Brown's head kept getting bigger every week. Because he kept standing next to freaking Devon. And it was like freaking, when you freaking drink, you drink like bread
and I think Malcolm, it led to you and I making the joke of it's gonna be really scary. If Devon Sweat mixes with D'Lo Brown's like bread biscuit mix, head, and his head just inflates and then all of a sudden it explodes like a water balloon all over the crowd. It's a Gallagher concert.
Oh, wait, Nip Freak, Malcolm, what cable do you have? Because I can tell you, channel that has NJPW. Yeah, I have Verizon. So, I think it's next to Destination America. Wait, let me check, make sure.
Well, yeah, and they had Bray Wyatt come out, which was fun, and Bray actually dominated there early on.
Bray coming out early was a shocker. I did not expect him to come out there. Look, I expect him to have, that moment of, let's say, domination, but I did not expect him to be out that early.
Of course, the thing that did kind of anger me, because I was like, I got all excited, and then, I'm like, damn it, they better build this up for like Fastlane or something. Hopefully, if they, have him like face Bray at least just once. But I think it was number 7 or number 8. They had, we saw the return of the Boogeyman. And I got excited because I was like, oh man, you're gonna take the 2 weirdest dudes, the 2 creepiest dudes in WWE, and you're gonna have them go up against each other. I'm like, this is gonna be good. This is gonna be great. Boogeyman's gonna be eating the worms, and Bray's gonna be doing the spider walk. People are gonna be looking. Children are gonna be crying and peeing their pants with terror. I'm like, this is going to be a great, psychological warfare match.
And what did we get after all of that? Pop. I'm like, oh, there goes Boogeyman.
I just looked at that and I just shook my head. I'm like, that was crap.
Just Ego put in the chat. And that's what I knew he was from. Really? No. I thought it was Chris's reaction. Even when the Boogie, no. Chris was actually had a despondent reaction when Boogeyman came out. He was like, really? Boogeyman? The Boogeyman? And so when he got thrown out, okay, there you go, Boogeyman. There you go. I'm like, I could tell Chris is like, I wasn't looking forward to the Boogeyman. Like I wasn't looking forward.
But then we allegedly had that whole psychological warfare thing between Eric Rowan and Luke Harper and Bray Wyatt, and we almost saw like a Wyatt family breakdown, which I feel is a missed opportunity.
It's good that you bring that up. It's good that you bring that up because once
Of course, we're
again.
not bringing up how Rowan stole Curtis Axel's
No,
spot, which
no,
who
no, no, no,
cares?
not
Because
that.
Curtis Axel would have got eliminated anyway.
No, but not because of that. Because I will bring that up though. Because once again, I was delayed. So when I finally, after Boogeyman and Bubba, who had you know what? I kind of skipped away from Bubba because he had a good, stiff, strong style moment with Luke Harper. That was a good, stiff, strong style moment when they were going fist to fist. Then Luke hit a stiff savate kick and bullied. He didn't no sell it. He sold it, but he used the ropes as momentum and hit the clothesline. Hard one too, and the crowd started clapping. I guess because that was ECW. No, they respect that strong style that came with it. But yeah, the whole Rowan Luke Harper Bray Wyatt thing. I did not know that happened because after Boogeyman came out and Bubba was gone, I hit live because I thought okay maybe that's to ease up on the surprise entrance for now. So I went back live, and then I just see Bray Wyatt in the ring by himself. So me and Jay Vaughn just assumed that he eliminated Luke Harper. Um, and next thing you know, when Chris watches the Rumble and Kurt Zach will come out, and then Rowan blindsides him, and we see. I'm like, oh, okay, I did not see this. And it's funny that you bring up Curtis Axel because it got all at the joke of the even though it's like all the hostility, there's still a joke within the Rumble. The Rumble's not over yet. Curtis Axel never got even in the Rumble yet, so he's still yet to become an active member. So the Rumble is still in place. I'm like, and then when I saw, like, yeah, they never say Curtis Axel was so harmed that he could not compete in Rumble anymore. I'm thinking, isn't technically the match still on? Axel never got thrown out. He never even got a chance to
And
become
man,
an.
if they don't play that up on SmackDown or something, that's going to be a missed opportunity. And it's not like it's going to matter.
Yeah, and you
Reigns
know
is
what?
still going to
Exactly.
probably end up beating Axel anyway, but still.
But yeah, we're especially I know for sure Steve. Now Steve, gonna get a plug as a writer, and it was becoming hopefully an aspiring and a future writer. And when you're writing, you like continuity, even if it's not the biggest thing. So in this case, I would still like to see some continuity. Like, yeah, they bring that up, like and Sir Curse Axel. I never got a chance in the Rumble, so Roman, you technically did not win, and I challenge you tonight. Like, well, you're gonna lose anyway. Like Steve says, his maple syrup sapped beer.
And of course, his, splitting the rib cage move that he always does, which looks so stupid.
No, Chris always says, "What is that?" And I'm like, I guess he think he's the Guyver. He's doing the chest blast. I guess he thinks he's the Guyver. So then Bray Wyatt, we get Zack Ryder returns and got a pretty good reaction. And got a little good showing before Bray Wyatt just tossed him out. We had Sin Cara. Got a little something something before he got Sister Abigail, and a good one too, and tossed out. And for those of you that remember Royal Rumble 2010 when CM Punk was on a roll and he would give those sermons. Bray Wyatt almost did something that he maybe wouldn't give a sermon, but he got some mic time throughout the Rumble. And it was funny after he's waiting for somebody, not gonna take it. Damn, when are you gonna take it? I'm like,
Yeah, that made me
face
laugh.
too. It's
But
his
I
face.
think the
That a damn when are
the
you gonna take it?
but I think the thing. But I think I think the last highlight, and it was announced, the last special guest, and man, I'm not gonna lie, he looked really really winded, but he still can do it quite well. The final surprise entry in the Royal Rumble this year was none other then the master of the diamond cutter himself, the man whose yoga actually helped save Jake Roberts and Scott Hall.
Yes.
DDP. And man, I'm not gonna lie, I don't care if it took him a second to do it, man, just seeing, it's like, you get a diamond cutter and you get a diamond cutter, and then he did that top rope diamond cutter. I was like, man.
Yeah, I mean, somebody, I think it was Nate that said, yeah, possibly DDP. And next thing you know, and it's me. I'm like, oh, it's DDP, so high five. And yeah, it was great to see, the diamond cutter, the master of the diamond cutter. And I think it was Nate that said, and Orton, that's how it's done. That's how it's done, Orton. I mean, it was good to see.
But it was funny because then when they played Rusev's entrance, here comes Jamal all stoic. It's like, oh great, another legend for Rusev to feed upon.
Yeah, here's another legend, for Rusev to feed on. I mean, even before that, basically somebody to finally cancel Brian. I just put right there, Bray's thing. Finally, Brian comes, and I'm thinking, okay, pretty early. And Brian is Brian. He's kicking. He's everything. It was funny when he kept doing the drop kicks in the corner. Javon was so scared that he gonna keep doing it, and Bray gonna close on it. Every time he kept going back, stop! Oh, the crowd! Oh, stop!
No. I think what I love is I think what I love is JBL kind of partly breaking character for a moment. It's like, man, Brian, you just came back from surgery. Slow down, kid. You got your whole life ahead of you.
Yeah, you just came back and you got a whole rumble ahead of you. Pace yourself, son. Pace yourself. I mean, he sounded like a real, Western father or grandpa. Pace yourself, son. Pace yourself. The son's practicing, how to I don't know, rope tie a horse or something or a bull. Pace yourself, son. It's all in the wrist.
The only thing that would have been funny is if Brian actually kept hitting the turnbuckle and he kept going ow.
Yeah, ow. And then when Brian put Bray on the top rope for the hurricane, I'm like, no. Even me, you're like, no, you don't do super moves in the Rumble. You don't. That's easy to get thrown out, but he hit it anyway. And so, yeah. Then, then it was interesting because I think I stepped out. So when they said, when I heard in the background, Bray Wyatt and Brian both went through the middle rope, and I think what happens when I come back in and show, Bray gets thrown out, and then Brian does a suicide dive. I was like, oh, shoot. And then, Rusev was the one to eliminate DDP. So, so young J-Way was right. That, so unfortunately DDP was one to get fed on, by
and then we had and then we had kind of a semi-cool spot that I felt ended kind of a little bit too early, which was Brian doing, his signature, chest kicks, but he was going back and forth on Rusev and Wyatt.
Yeah, look, he had two wide targets. Rusev being all burly that he is, that's probably Rusev's biggest part is his upper body. So, man, when he was kicking, you just hear thud and thud. I'm like, man, and he's going with Bray and everything. And then, unfortunately, Brian gets eliminated in such an anticlimactic way. And see, I'm going to bring this up right now.
And that's when the crowd really started to kind of boo.
I'm going to bring this up right now. Somebody wants my opinion about saying, are you upset that Brian lost? No, he was one of my picks. I had 3 picks. I'm not upset that he lost. I do feel that I do question how he got eliminated. That was so anticlimactic because we got eliminated. It was like Brian got knocked out. he was still sitting up, like thinking, like, man, like, shoot, I lost. I'm thinking, and then when Chris came, I didn't really want to spoil anything with Chris. He didn't watch it yet, but when I was like, you really want to watch the Rumble? He's like, yeah, why? I'm like, okay, like he's like something bad. I'm like, it's like something bad who won. I'm like, no, it's not that's how you feel on it. But elimination, like, okay, tell me. I was like, Brian got eliminated, not even halfway, didn't even reach the halfway point through the Rumble. When he got eliminated, 16 was on its way coming. So we just reached like the halfway point. And so when I saw that, and I'm going to put on the chat, oh, hell no. Because I'm thinking, really? That anticlimactic and that early, he's eliminated? It was, and then a part of me is like, by Bray Wyatt again. And this is why I'm saying, I'm hoping that Bray being a thorn in Bryan's side is a real narrative, not just something that they just keep doing. Because you keep having Bryan lose to him. He lost him at the last Rumble, which was a great match, by the way. Then he loses to him in his first Raw match back. And now he loses to him in the Rumble. So I'm thinking, is this part of a narrative that Bryan, that Bray is really his nemesis that he can't really shake off? Because if it was me, I would do that because you just keep having him lose to him. And the way Bray looked at him like, yeah, I'm the one that eliminated, really gave me like, okay, this maybe is going to lead to something. But no, Bryan getting eliminated as he did and how early he did, that really threw me for, I'm like.
But, it also led us to believe, okay, it led us to Reigns, who ended up, winning, which we were like, okay, like I said, too soon. So I thought, okay, maybe this is a clear-cut sign that, Ziggler or Ambrose might take it. More so Ziggler, because let's face it, Ziggler's been on a roll.
Ziggler's been on a roll.
It made sense for him to win the Rumble.
Ziggler's been on a roll. He's actually been one of the main focuses since before 2014 ended and everything. Same thing for Ambrose. Now, look, like as Steve brought up before, after Bryan got eliminated, you basically thought that you were in a cemetery. It was just quiet. After the boos, it was just quiet. It's almost like the Eagles were playing, and they were up by freaking 20 or freaking by like 3 touchdowns, and they got the game won, and then the team just scores all the way, and it's now 1 minute left, and the Eagles are down. Just took the whole crowd out of it. Now, I know there's a lot of people that might go say, oh, that crowd's very disrespectful and everything. But if that's one of their favorites, how do you think they're going to react when their favorite goes out? It does bring them down a little bit. Oh, man, one of my favorites just got out. Now, so then, and it didn't help that almost initially after Bryan got eliminated, Reigns came out. That did not help. That did not help at all. I agree with what Nate said. He said to me before we closed our conversation last night, he said if it was him, he's like, I don't know if it would have really saved the crowd from rebelling and everything, but if it was him, and after Bryan got eliminated, he would have had either Ziggler, but he used Ambrose to come out next and beat the hell out of Bray, because that would have got the crowd back into it earlier than they did, and since the crowd were maybe against Bray for being the one to eliminate Bryan, it's like, yeah, get him for eliminating Bryan. I actually, you know what? That would have been smart. Get a top face like Ambrose or Ziggler.
And plus, let's face it,
Yes.
Ambrose and Wyatt's rivalry has been probably one of the better rivalries in WWE to date, and I feel like that ambulance match should have been kind of the ending, but at the same time, Ambrose, just being stubborn, reignites the rivalry.
Yeah, he reignites the rivalry, so it's like, okay, it's not like why is Ambrose going so crazy on Bray Wyatt? No, it would make sense Even though Crystal feels that Ambrose should have won the Amber match, and I do agree too. I still hold that opinion. He should have won that match. But so I agree with Nate. I would have, if it was me, I would have had Ambrose come out next. Get the crowd back on one of their favorites. Okay, Brian's gone. Here's another one of your favorites. But no, after we had Reigns, we got booed immediately. And look, if it seems like a lot of people are saying that the reason why Reigns getting booed because of Brian. I called it. Reigns was going to get booed at the Rumble no matter what. I'm sorry. Philly was going to boo him. I felt Philly was going to boo him no matter what. Reigns was already getting a mixed reaction even before Brian even announced his return. So I don't know why. Hey, look, if you want to feel that it's because of Brian, hey, look, go ahead. But I don't feel that's anything. I don't think.
Well, after we're done, talking and doing a full recap with the Rumble, that's when I think I'm going to actually probably do my tirade, Malcolm, because I do want to actually at least get that in before, we close this episode of the Wrestling Corner, because I got a few things that I need to actually say. And some of them are not going to be very pleasant. That's all I'm going to say about that. But you'll see, in a hot second or a hot minute, once we get done with this, recap.
Right. So, it took Miz down to get the crowd back going. And then once he got out, the crowd went back being silent. Ryback did not get a really necessarily bad reaction. He really didn't. The crowd was chanting everything, feed me more and everything, and that was good. He got cheered when he hit Reigns. He really did. And then, Ambrose came out. Ambrose got a chant. And then Ziggler was number 30. And as and that was great. But I say this. Steve brought up how Bray Wyatt had a good performance, which he did. He had a good performance. But you look at his performance and you look how he got eliminated. It was pretty anticlimactic. And that's something that stood out to me with this Rumble. Mostly all the big timers when they got eliminated, it did not really feel.
And let's not talk about, when it was down to the final ones and, the complete, finger flipping, towards basically the entire WWE universe, at the hands of, Kane and Big Show and just, the writing and creative teams in general.
Yeah, I mean, look, what Steve's referring to, Big Show, look, is it believable for Big Show and Kane as a force to dominate the Rumble? Yes, it is, no matter how old they get. But, once again, Ziggler comes out number 30. And like Young Jayway, here's a super kick for you, super kick for you, super kick for you. Double DT's Big Show Kane. Avoids getting eliminated the first time. Goes on the top rope, bam, WMD. Just like that, it's over for Ziggler. It's over. It's over. And then they just lift him up. And I said to Chris when Chris was watching, when I was in the bed, I was in the bed when Chris was in his room watching. I said, watch this. They're going to lift him up and dump him like he's a dead body. Like how, in war, you see they put the dead bodies in like a specific location. That's how they dumped Ziggler. Like he was a dead body.
And then they did it to Ambrose.
Yeah, and then they did it for Ambrose. And I think as a fan, as a fan of those guys that died, you could not help but see like something symbolic to it. Like these are your fallen heroes. If you had that book, thought, I could not book it. That's how I can understand that symbol. Like, why are Ambrose and Ziggler being the ones, just them, just lifted up like they're just dead body and they're just dumped right out? Like, yeah, these are your fallen heroes.
And then, they had the missed opportunity with Rusev that didn't even play out until, after the match, which
I didn't even know.
Stupid.
I didn't even know that. I forgot all about what happened to Rusev. I remember him getting choke slammed, and I didn't see him roll under the bottom rope. So then once again, I bring up anticlimactic because which looked like the final elimination with Reigns eliminated Big Show and Kane. look came off weak. I'm like, for such a emphatic guy like Reigns, just him, yeah. It even looked like Kane and Big Show were going to go over. I thought that one was going to go over and the other was going to stay in. That's how it looked like. And they just both fall over. And then when you see them just land on their feet and just look at each other like, we lost. Let's get. I'm like, yeah, that's pretty anticlimactic. And lo and behold, here comes The Rock, which got a good pop, and we finally found the reason for why. We finally get the reason for why The Rock, his role after Rumble. And Rock does his thing, people's elbow, and, rock bottom. But once he raises Reigns' hand, the crowd is reminded of the fact that Reigns is the winner. Or so we thought, because there come Rusev, popped up like a freaking jack in a box. Blah! No, he sounded like a freaking rabbit from Rayman the Rabbit. Blah! And spear. And Doom, I'm like, we don't even get like a final 5-minute showdown between Reigns and Rusev. And I thought it was. I thought when he got speared, I thought he was gonna maybe counter and they were gonna have a little bit of a back and forth. Nope, it was spear and out goes, Rusev. And then Reigns finally became the winner. And I pointed this out. If not even The Rock's endorsement of his own family member to get the crowd on Reigns' side, that's saying something. This is The Rock. This ain't no average Joe in terms of wrestling wise. This guy has name value, star power, all whole 9 yards. And it's all, you almost think.
Yeah, this is literally the people's champ.
Yeah. If this guy's being endorsed by The Rock, we must like this guy. This guy's being dead. The Rock got, he got The Rock's endorsement. Nope. The crowd, it was almost like that was a reminder to the crowd that, yeah, Reigns is the winner. Because they were cheering for The Rock. And then once he raised Reigns' hand, it was like, oh, yeah, Reigns won. So that basically wraps up the Rumble.
And it's just like I was talking about in the post-match fallout. WWE was switching camera angles because there were fans flipping off the cameras, and and I think that they even censored some fans because I think that there were a lot of fans trying to get in front of the cameras and like flip off WWE or talk about like F this and F that. Let me put it in perspective for you guys.
Wait. Hold on, Steve. Hold on. I just want to read this one comment. Nathan Beck, TMZ.com is reporting that WWE will announce Arnold Schwarzenegger as the next inductee into the class of 2015 Hall of Fame. Schwarzenegger has made many appearances with WWE, including inducting Bruno Sammartino into the Hall of Fame in 2013. Wow, so Arnold's going to be inducted in the celebrity.
So Arnold's going to be going to be the latest celebrity inductee. I say, why not?
Hey, look, I remember as a kid, I was anticipating when his first appearance at that SmackDown. I was like, oh man, what's Arnold going to do?
And he punched out Triple H.
Not only this guy punched, he was chopping the hell out, and then he gave Stone Cold the chair. That's one of my favorite SmackDown moments. The initial episodes of SmackDowns were definitely full of moments. No freaking lie. But back to that Snoop Dogg would say, back at the matter at hand.
But yeah, it's like, let me tell you guys why the Royal Rumble got this bad. And I even showed Malcolm this. And I'm also going to bring up a second article that I was actually reading. Fans were so dissatisfied that literally in the top 5 tierings on Twitter was hashtag cancel WWE Network. Fans are literally, even right now, even as we're speaking, are still raging and literally all the literally they said that the WWE Network page, Malcolm, actually shut down because so many people were canceling their subscriptions.
Whoa.
That tells you something. And then I was reading a second article, and this is where, Philly's one of those big sports towns, and this is what I hate about sports fans in general, because I'm going to generalize everybody in this. I'm sorry. I understand that there are passionate sports fans. I get that. I really do. I understand that. When you are passionate about a team, a genre of a movie, whatever, etc. and so forth, you're passionate about anything, you tend to act a little bit cray cray, a little bit stupid. You tend to lose yourself.
You basically lose all rationality.
Yeah, you lose all rationality. But when you're threatening other people and you're doing half of the stuff like, and I hate to bring it up, but, use Ferguson as an example. When they had all those riots in Ferguson over, the whole, court ruling, it's like that was ridiculous. That was uncalled for. Case in point here with Philadelphia, right after that match, there were people not only leaving the arena, but there were people that literally formed a blockade that would not allow the WWE trucks, rental cars, etc. They weren't letting anybody out of the arena. Cops had to actually pull people out of their vehicles, arrest them, and get tow trucks, an army of tow trucks, to wrench these people's vehicles away from the parking lot so that people to put it even more in perspective, while me and Malcolm are not happy about Reigns winning the Rumble per se, Reigns was the last person to leave the Royal Rumble arena because of how rowdy fans were getting and because of all the turmoil that was happening. Even online sports journalists were actually like hours late. Even they had to actually call their hotels and tell them, "Hey, I know that, there's a curfew and a lockdown and stuff for the hotel, but could you leave the door, open because I'm going to be late because I can't get out of the arena." Fans were literally, basically, in retaliation, keeping the ring crews from breaking down the rings. They were trying to keep some talent from actually getting their rental cars and going back to their hotels. And that right there, Malcolm, is a proof and point to where okay, we get it, you're unhappy, but still that kind of behavior is not only childish and immature, but it's kind of uncalled for and
That's correct.
really it's really it's kind of, the whole two wrongs don't make a right theorem being put in a literal context.
Yeah, that's where, you know, look, Steve brings up Philly. It's a known fact in Philly, for the sports fans. Philly fans have gained a reputation, or if you want to say the notoriety, if you want to use that, that might be the more emphatic word.
Just like Chicago.
Yeah, the notoriety. Well, no, what? Not necessarily Chicago, because what I'm about to say is more towards Philly. Philly fans have gained the notoriety in just all sports being the most ficklest of fans. Meaning, you do something good, they'll cheer you. Let's say next week you do something bad, just like that, you'll get booed. And here's some proof. I remember a Washington Redskin player said they came from beating the Eagles. And look, I'm not trying to single out Philly. This maybe happened. This maybe could have happened anywhere, but I know. But this is proof that in Philly it has happened. Redskin player was on their bus leaving out, and they saw the father actually basically point out and say, basically kind of point out to his little 5-year-old, go stick the middle finger up at that Redskin player right there. And the kid did it. Philly fans are known as being the most fickle fans. One day they'll like you, the next day, they'll really hate you. Don McNabb is such a mixed thing in terms of Philly fans, and they're really one of the most, just like in New York, they'll let you hear it. What they feel, they'll let you hear it. Now, in terms of Chicago, it seems more with wrestling, the smart central for Chicago. But in terms of Chicago sport fans in general, they're not as fickle as Philly has gained that reputation.
Even then, Malcolm, it doesn't matter what city. It doesn't matter if,
No, it
whether
not.
it's a.
Look, I'm not general. Once again, I'm not trying to single out because of the city. It's just period that's where you give not just wrestling, but just fans. That's where you come as a
Well,
stereotypical.
I'm just saying, I'm just saying though, Malcolm, in general, and in the last couple of years, and I base this on no statistical data, guys. This is just my own personal opinion. Sports fans have become way more out of control, I think, in recent years than honestly years prior to that. Because remember the times when you could be able to watch the NBA or anything else like that, even if you weren't a sports fan, and actually enjoy it and not read about all this controversy like this whole deal with the Seahawks and the Patriots and this whole stupid, Tom Brady ball deflation crap that they got, on C-SPAN and all these other channels. Remember when sports actually was worth reporting on and actually for the reasons that it needed to be reported on, not just sounding like a fucking dirt sheet for TMZ? Because that's what it feels like with sports now, Malcolm. It doesn't feel like we're reporting on the sports. We're reporting on the personal lives. Oh, Tom Brady's supposed to be, an advocate for children's preschools, but he's out doing, tequila shots just one night, celebrating, a bachelor party for his younger brother's, third cousin from his, gastric bypass, aunt's, liver colon, uncle or whatever. And it's getting ridiculous, Malcolm. It's getting ridiculous that, that we've now reached that point to where, honestly, and it's not just even sports, it's just, in general, but it seems like every little thing has to become a gossip column.
I,
Or every little thing, has to be put in such a literal context when it really shouldn't be.
well, you know, me being a sport fan been a sport fan since I was 5 years old. First watching basketball. Now, does it feel as though necessarily the sports are not being reported? Well, this is nothing new because you still get the sport reports. What's the latest bad thing you've heard out of NHL? I can't think of anything. Sports has always had their dark days. You've had the mob basically betting on a college team. Think Boston College, and that made the news report. That was like in the 80s. In the 90s, you had the everybody knows the 90s for MLB. That was the steroid era. So with it's good in sports, yeah, it's always been the bad. And with the we were just talking. It's funny. We was talking about this in math class. My teacher was able to relate the Patriots deflation of the balls to a bag of potato chips somehow. If people yeah, there are people in our class like, what's the big deal about deflating a ball in football? It is a big deal. It is a big deal. I don't think it had anything to do. It affected the game. But this is the second time the Patriots have been caught with an illegal action. That's why I think a lot of people are missing. But it's just the media, period. This is what the media does. The media, as my Professor Turner would say, if you did not have the freedom of speech and everything, the media would not be alive today. This is what the media does. They'll take one thing. And they'll make it bigger than it is. The Patriots cheating a pretty big deal? Yeah. But the media, you'll see it. Yeah, you said you see it. It's on CNN. That's what Professor Torres said. It's on CNN. It's on. I haven't checked C-SPAN, but I'll take your word. It's on C-SPAN.
I'm just throwing C-SPAN in there in general. I'm just saying,
the media takes up everything, and yeah, it does feel, for instance, that with an athlete, an actor, or anything, yeah, that is most probably TMZ. TMZ, what do they make their living off of? Find every nook and cranny about somebody's personal life. That's what the media does. I like what Professor Torres said. Whatever happened to just honesty, just honest reporting? You take one thing and then you over exaggerate it to get everybody talking. You see the report, you get the information that you got, and you just report that. That's what you report. yeah, and this and no, and wait, oh, wait, you hear that? Well, we don't even got proof of that, but do you hear that? It's what the media does. But in terms of the fans, you know, and I don't know if you saw it, Steve, but I even posted it up on Facebook not too long ago. When Ohio State won the national championship, the college team, how did some of their fans, not all of them, but once again, I'm not singling out Ohio. My friend Nate from Ohio, you know, and he's not one of those type of people. What did they do to celebrate? And then this just goes to show it doesn't always do something bad, like as a bad reaction. What did the fans do to celebrate? They caused fires. They caused fires as a way to celebrate. When the Giants, the San Francisco Giants won the World Series, not when they, I don't think when they won it this time. When they won it a couple of years ago, there's a picture you go on from freaking Google Images and see a fan freaking breaking through the front bus window with I think some freaking post, and that's what I put on Facebook. For the life of me, I will never understand the idea, the logic behind celebrating a team's victory, championship victory, by doing actions that are associated with rioting. I don't get that logic. And I remember Nate said,
I don't know how people in their right mind can feel like, this is acceptable behavior because they know that they're going to get arrested for it.
How you feel that celebrated? And when Nate said, it's called alcohol, and I'm like, you know what? I would like to agree with that a little bit. Maybe some is alcohol, but I said this. I call it a lack of human decency because not everybody. I don't think everybody who's celebrating with those type of actions are drunk. I can't believe that everybody that's participating when a team wins a victory. And look, not every team victory results into that. Because not every team, when the Spurs won, that didn't happen. And when the Ravens won, and Steve, you're in the neighborhood. I don't remember hearing anything when the Ravens won the Super Bowl that Ravens fans were rioting in the streets because their team won.
They didn't necessarily riot, but they did, throw a hootenanny and disturb the peace, I'll admit.
But
and when and I thought for sure that Ray Lewis statue would get knocked over, or get defaced, and so I was surprised, but I didn't hear that it got defaced.
Right. So that's what I said. I'm like, look, yeah, maybe it's a little bit off, but I call it a lack of human decency because not everybody can be buzzed on alcohol participating in that. And I do agree.
No, I think people just want to commit. I think people nowadays, Malcolm, they just want an excuse to do something vile, ugly, and that could get them arrested so they can have the excuse of, well, my team won or I'm buzzed.
Yeah, well,
sorry.
It was a celebration. But that's no celebration. You're putting lives at risk. That's not a celebration. I mean,
yeah, no, that's stupidity. And I'm gonna block, this car so such and such, can't get out of, this, Philadelphia arena. It's like because, because Roman Reigns won the Royal Rumble.
I mean,
to me, that's just ridiculous, people.
That's just petty. That's just it's childish. It's petty.
And it's petty.
It's just, I understand that you're upset, but I'm just gonna say, Ohio State, they even broke into the freaking university's football stand, broke down the field goal post. But when you hear you're blocking everything, and don't forget, when you're blocking them, you just can't be blocking them. You gotta be blocking some innocent people. And no, what? I'm gonna take that back because Roman Reigns and them, they're innocent people too. They didn't do no immoral action. They didn't do no real crime.
And this is what leads to at least, one part of my tirade, and this is something, especially when it comes to wrestling, that I think not only you and I need to address, but I think it's something that I just need to get off my chest, and, I'll start predominantly with WWE itself as an entity. I will not be canceling, I'm not happy with the current WWE, but I'm not going to cancel my WWE membership, and I will tell you guys why I will not do that. Because The network has all of my memories, Malcolm's memories, and everybody else's memories on that network. Case in point, I could watch any match from the Rock and Wrestling era. I can watch anything from WCW and the Monday Night Wars. I can watch anything from the Attitude Era. The eras that we grew up with. And Lord knows the WWE Network's probably going to start, if they manage to keep it alive for that long, they're probably going to have freaking archives. They got like from the vault stuff. They have stuff from the olden days of wrestling back when they were individual promotions. So really, there's a plethora of matches on that network. But I'm not happy with the current WWE because, it's 50-50 booking. They try to give the bad guys some, they try to give the good guys some. They say, Triple H has said that story matters more. I'm fine with that statement as long as the wrestling and the payoff, is exactly what it should be, not anticlimactic, not feeling underwhelming. And overwhelming us with the same kind of matches like they did. And don't get me wrong, I love the rivalry between Bryant and Ambrose, but I can't agree with you, Malcolm, that they really should have kind of slowed it down with their rivalry a little bit. Not doing so many big matches on Monday nights and SmackDowns and stuff. Like a lot of that should have
Same
been
thing for
on the
Rollins and Cena.
pay-per-views, both of them.
Same thing for Rollins and Cena. I enjoy the matches, but I'm like, man, you guys keep doing Rollins and Cena. You look back when they first, man, like every once a week, Rollins and Cena. I'm like, man.
But but also what I don't like is that they push a lot of the talent that is not getting over necessarily with the crowds, or don't have the talent to really back it up to be, that top tier face or that top tier heel. And they certainly don't seem to want to pay dividends, at least, on a bigger scale than they do with their, big time, faces. Okay, so they've made Ziggler a sole survivor. They've basically given him, I don't know how many, intercontinental championships, so far, or runs, etc., so forth. And he doesn't win the Royal Rumble match. Stupid cat. He doesn't. He doesn't win the Royal Rumble match. He's disrespectfully actually, basically tossed out as if, a big middle finger to fans, which I find very disrespectful for the hard work that, Ziggler actually puts in, night in and night out. Almost proving, I'll go ahead and say it. To me, Ziggler is coming across as a modern day Shawn Michaels. He really is. He's starting to get to the point. He's starting to get to the point. He's starting to get to the point that Michaels did when he had that Iron Man match with Brett. He's getting to that apex in his career where if he manages to keep going like he's going, he could eventually, become, or practically is right at the doorstep of being, the next top guy. Let's face it. He's over. The fans like him. Even on social media, he's a big hit. He's got the in-ring skills to back it up. I don't understand, and it's just like with Brian, too. I don't understand how these guys can be considered, top tier, but they're not being considered for the big, championship matches, whereas you got somebody, like as talented as they both are, you got Rollins and Reigns, being given title shot after title shot, or being given these opportunities that really you just kind of question, okay, they're, as good as they are, it's like they still need a little bit of polish, whereas you got, all these other guys, like, okay, I'll admit, I like the fact that they kept Wyatt in the main event kind of scene, but that they haven't really utilized him or Ambrose in that kind of capacity. I like that so that possibly leads to a slow build, which is not a bad thing.
The same thing
Doing a
goes
slow
for
burn is not a bad thing.
the same thing goes for, Rusev. Look, he's the United States champion. They could have just tried to force him into the main event picture, but he stayed upper mid card. So it's like, okay, look, at least he's United States champion. And speaking of Rusev, yeah, I found out thanks to Nate, and now Nathan Banks is even now confirmed it. But I found out when he was like, yeah, like he was like, Nathan was like, why in the hell would you start the Cena Rusev feud on the post show? I was like, what are you talking about? He was like, are you not watching the fall? I was like, no. I'm like, no. He's like, yeah, you guys Cena.
Yeah, on the fallout, Rusev was going to say something to Roman Reigns, and he shoved Cena out the way as if to tell him, get the hell out my way. And him and Cena started going at it.
Yeah, and then I'm like, okay, they're gonna do Rusev versus Cena, and I'm like, what is Cena going after U.S. title? And then I like when they said it's WWE, it's going to be a non-title match, and I'm like, yeah, I'm thinking, what does that do for Ryback? So what? So I'm thinking if Cena and Rusev's now the main feud. So now that's going to make Ryback winning the United States title come across secondary? I hope that's not the case because I don't want Ryback first title win to come across as just secondary. Yeah, now, okay, that's done with. Now back to the main matter at hand, Cena versus Rusev. Because I've actually been anticipating a real Rusev and Ryback match. After Ryback's promo where, this is not a USA, America, this is a big guy kicking another big guy's ass. I was like, oh yeah, man, this is good.
It should be a build up similar to what they did in NXT with Baron Corbin and Bull Dempsey.
Yeah, they're slowly they're slowly building. They were slowly building up this Ryback. I thought they did a good job when Ryback got fired and Rusev was taking those pot shots, and I'm like, okay, that's good, subtle way of keeping this feud alive. He's talking about Ryback while Ryback's not there. So I really hope that, when Rusev loses, it's just them to lose United States title against freaking Ryback, and then the main thing is Cena versus Rusev. And somebody already said, no, it was Robert. He was like, no, somebody underneath Robert. It was a good run, Rusev. I'm like, look at that. Already people do not expect Rusev to get a win over Cena. It makes me wonder, is this going to carry over into Mania, or is this going to be a one-off thing? What the hell? Bill Dukes. Big Duke. How is he coming in a freaking mailbox toward a freaking mail tornado? What the hell? What the hell's Bill Dukes doing? And I look like he's trying to straighten out one. And then for me, once again, I hope the whole deal is it's Bray versus Bryan. If once again there's still this rumor that if Taker is to compete, it's going to be against Bray. But if Taker's not going to compete, I'm guessing it's going to be Bray versus Bryan. And I'm hoping they're going to carry the narration that, Bryan has yet to really get one over Bray. Because I don't know where does Bryan go now. When I think it was Robert when he asked me, what do you think are the plans for Bryan? And I said, if he doesn't win the title, if he doesn't win the Rumble, if he wins the Rumble, then I know for sure what it is. But if he don't, I really don't know. If he doesn't win the Rumble, I don't know what his plans are for WrestleMania. I'm like, what is it? Same thing for Ziggler. I think. Hold on. I got it right here. I think it was Jamal, it was Nathan Banks. I think either at Fastlane or WrestleMania, Ziggler will face BNB for the IC title and get it back. And why I can see that personally, I think I'm done with Ziggler with the mid card belt. I would like to see him in a big time if it's not for a title, at least a big time non-title feud. I think he's done enough in the Intercontinental United States realm. I I think it's time. It's time for him to really kick him more up a notch. I think he's got so much more that he can probably be good in an upper mid card, you know, a pretty like lower main event, match. It's not the title. It's the main one of the main non-title matches. And I'm gonna read some comments from the chat room. That was one from Nathan. I remember Steve's one you brought with young J-Way. Crowd wasn't feeling that at all. W consistently turns the crowd against their faces, not including D being Dean, and that's when you put Ziggler, and he agreed. Then, yeah, that's when you said, Rollins and Reigns. That's what you called. You see Rollins maybe possibly cashing it in before WrestleMania comes. And it's funny. They advertised Fastlane. I remember Nate was like, here comes Nate, comment, he talked to me. He's like, did they just advertise a pay-per-view that Brock's not going to be at? I'm thinking, you mean again? It's like, yeah, he was on the advertise, but I don't think he's going to be there. Then we had, me and you, Steve was talking about, we don't see, Reigns at this point, him winning right now, really sending the crowd home happy. Then finally, when I saw that, Gabi was there, and I was like, I see you. And he finally commented that he watched it. And, Gabi had to say, yeah, I don't have a problem with Reigns winning. And look, I don't hate that Reigns won. Look, do I feel that look, I even said to Chris, there's a good part of me that feels bad that he's got this reaction. No lie, there's a part of me that does feel that way. I just don't feel in my opinion that he's ready to win. To be main event WrestleMania. And then Gabi went on. I think the crowd was just pissing their panties because Daniel Bryan didn't win. Daniel Bryan doesn't need to win everything. That would definitely create another Cena for the fans to turn on, which Nathan agreed. And, Gabi, part of what makes guys like Bryan and Dolph Ziggler good babyface is that they don't always win. But like I said, it's already been proven that Bryan doesn't always win. Let's face it. After he won the title, he lost it immediately. Then he had the rematch against Orton, and then they stripped the belt away from him. Then he lost at Hell in a Cell. Then TLC he loses. Then the Rumble he loses. Then the Elimination Chamber he loses. Then he finally wins at WrestleMania. And just when he gets the belt, it's all over. So I don't think Bryan is the case of, he wins everything. I really don't. I don't. And the same thing goes for Ziggler, even though Gabi didn't bring Ziggler. When I said about Ziggler being the main event, Gabi had to say that I don't see a WrestleMania main eventer in Ziggler. I honestly don't. At one point, maybe not, but now I gotta disagree. I actually can see Ziggler holding his own at WrestleMania main event. I personally can. I really can. I really do. And once again, I don't think the negative just has to do with, as Guy put, with Bryan losing. Because they booed when Ambrose got eliminated, and they booed when Ziggler got. Yeah, Bryan was like the real hit, but it's So that was basically mostly all the comments for after the Rumble was over in the chat.
And you might want to answer that door before it gets too much, because I still got quite a lot that I actually need to say anyway. And it is and if this cat would quit fucking around so I can actually talk, get your ass up here. That way I can see you and I can pet you and you can just sit there and purr and I can actually talk even though my back will be facing everybody. But no, it is getting to the point, Malcolm, where with here's the thing that bugs me. It's not just, the current WWE and the 50-50 booking and Vince not being able to relate to the present day crowd, or, all that stuff that's, really bringing WWE downhill, like its predecessors in the 80s and so forth, as one column had put. But it's just also the fact, Malcolm, that the fans, the WWE universe as a whole is not helping either.
Right.
And it's particularly the overzealous fans, but it's the ones that still think that wrestling is real. Well, if you have children, allow me. Man, are you gonna answer the door?
I am, but I just kind of want to listen what you're gonna say.
Get over here, Dad. Stop it. I'm trying to sit here and talk, and you want to fuck around. But it's the case of, the wrestling fans that still think that it's real, or kids, or kids or adults getting way too overly and emotionally invested in the product. It once again, overly passionate fans. Allow me to break the news to you. I don't care if your kids are in the room or not. Let me tell you a couple of truths of life. First off, Santa Claus is not real. Okay, that's your parents. Number 2, the Easter Bunny does not exist. Number 3, wrestling is gimmicky and it is scripted. It doesn't mean that the bumps that those guys take actually don't hurt like hell, because it's just plywood with a small, sheet mat put over it. Other than that, it doesn't offer much protection. It really doesn't. So when you see these guys hitting the ring, they're hitting like massive, like almost oak tree like boards. And to make it even worse, guys, they got the storylines, they got the gimmicks, they got all this stuff. But at the end of the day, when the show is over, Dolph Ziggler is not always Dolph Ziggler off camera. Nah, he's the same dude. I mean, he is practically the same dude, but, he's just being himself, not the character that he plays. And many fans and wrestlers get, offended when you say that it's fake. To me, the only part that's really fake about it is the fact that, a lot of the characters are gimmicks based on, the actual person's personality, that they have scripted events, and that, a lot of their matches are choreographed. Other than that, everything is real. The bumps they take are real. The injuries they suffer are real, etc. and so forth. But there's a lot of overly passionate fans that don't seem, especially over the years, or children who are not really being made to understand that none of this is real. None of this. Minus the injuries and the in-ring action and stuff like that. I understand, they're children, Steve. They're not psychologically developed. They won't understand, the psychology behind it. Okay, that's fine. Everybody's been knocking on Triple H about the whole, he broke character to, help, comfort a crying child. That's, and you got all the smarks saying, he just taught that kid that wrestling's not real, and that's going to, de-evolutionize this kid, make him hate the sport. You guys don't know that. I'll be honest, when I finally figured out that everything was choreographed with wrestling, was it disheartening? Yes. But at the same time, I still love the sport for what it is. And I still find it entertaining. I still enjoy watching it for what it is. My taste in wrestling has just evolved. It's not just WWE or WCW anymore. I'm watching classic ECW on occasion, although I'm not a big fan of it, but I have watched quite a few matches from it. I've watched New Japan stuff. Lucha Libre, I haven't watched. I've only maybe watched like a tiny smidgen of AAA. But I watch a lot of Lucha Underground, which is like, the Americanized version of, AAA. And then there's Ring of Honor. There's TNA. So I do diversify myself in wrestling. And yes, I haven't got a chance to watch Shimmer yet, but I'm sure Shimmer is, freaking awesome. And then there was Glow, and there was, so there were multiple eras of wrestling that, I have watched or have yet to watch that I'm very interested in watching, guys. But it's getting ridiculous that as wrestling fans, scratching, a little bit of dirt that was on my computer screen, but it's getting pretty freaking ridiculous that we're getting to a point in the eras of wrestling where we're now devolving back to a bunch of, and I'd hate to stereotype and generalize, but a bunch of backwooded rednecks with no intelligence or common sense thinking that all that wrestling, is real. That all of it is, so worth emotionally investing. And I'm baffled by this because I'm sorry. Yeah, the injuries are real. Yeah, the wrestling part of it, while scripted and everything is pretty much real, but all the other stuff, I'm sorry, none of that is real. I'm not going to say it's fake because it's not. Just like TV shows, just like, it's like TV shows, meet, professional sports. That's basically what WWE accomplishes with that, guys. But even then, professional wrestling has always been like more choreographed dance, than really, a fake sport. But I think that that's what's killing, the current WWE generation, if not professional wrestling in general, is we're getting more and more of these uneducated, very, I guess you could say, emotionally stunted, adults and children who get way more invested than they really should, in all these aspects. Let me reiterate that since Malcolm came back. Let me reiterate the point to you guys. Santa Claus, not real. It's your parents. Easter Bunny, not real at all. Professional wrestling, all of it is gimmicks and scripted. But even then, the threat of injury is real. The wrestling part of it is pretty real. The bumps they take are real. That's not soft padding under the ring. That's like oaken plywood that they're falling on with maybe like a thin mat that has probably got the same absorbent powder, absorbent power, I should specify, as like a wafer thin gym mat. And which, in other words, they don't get much protection. But it's just getting ridiculous that a lot of fans are treating this thing like it's so worth getting emotionally invested in, and I'm sorry, it's not. It's not worth that much of an investment that you're going to get yourself arrested, that you're going to cry, you're going to commit suicide, and you're going to do all this, really redundant and stupid shit, just because, and especially, this whole, like, internet worldwide ban, because the wrong wrestler won the Royal Rumble. That's really what kind of, grinds my gears about this, is that it's not just, and I'm not just saying this to cause controversy, guys. This is something that has been brewing inside of me for a while. I am getting so sick and fucking tired of going on the dirt sheets, listening to all these various so-called wrestling podcasts, listening to all these radio shows, listening to all this other garbage, that keeps spewing out of people's mouths and their Twitter blogs and stuff about how, oh, well, wrestling is dead. No, wrestling is dead because people don't seem to want to acknowledge it as an actual sport, or actually acknowledge that, hey, some parts of it are not really real or are choreographed compared to others. No, everybody is following that, like that one fat guy in that, in that meme video. Everybody thinks that everything that happens is real, that this is the way that these people are outside the ring. I guarantee you, Bad News Barrett, outside of the ring is not a cocky Brit, elbowing people and smash mouthing them in the face. No, if you watched interviews of him outside the character, you know, Barrett is actually a very nice guy. He's a very well-mannered guy. You would not believe, listening to this guy, that this guy at one point in his life early on was a bare-knuckle brawler. That's it's just ridiculous that we're to the point to where we're now reverting back to this Neanderthalic, attitude with professional wrestling, that everything is real and that kids should be made to believe that it's real. And I'll go back to the Triple H thing. Okay, that was Hunter's choice, not the fans' choice to harp on the fact that, hey, he broke character to comfort this little kid. And all the smarts going, well, that's a bad move because now you turn that kid against professional wrestling, because now he's going to think that Triple H is going to be the bad guy when he does a heel promo. Does nobody ever consider that perhaps maybe in the earlier parts of his life, Hunter didn't really care because he was still, single and had no responsibility? But does anybody ever think that, okay, now he's a part-time, if not retired wrestler who is now married and has children of his own, that perhaps maybe that was his maternal instinct as a father, kicking in when he comforted that kid? There is such a thing as people starting to have feelings, and this, and this, Malcolm, while you were gone, was pretty much, the tirade that I just had to, like, actually, for the most part, the main meat of it, get off my chest, is the fact that people need to quit acting so goddamn stupid about professional wrestling. It's like, it's now gone a complete 360. We went from finally people understanding what the sport actually is to now reverberating back to having to be re-educated on what the sport actually is. And that's pretty ridiculous. And especially, it's going back to the whole Philly Royal Rumble thing, because it's very evident, not even just wrestling fans, just sports fans in general. I get it. You're passionate. You want your team, your wrestler, your person, your favorite character, whatever, to win. I get that. But guess what? The thing about life, just like in Vegas, it's a crapshoot. There's a 50-50 chance that the person you don't want to win is going to win. It's going to happen. Life is not fair. Boo-hoo. Cry me a fucking river. It's just the way that it goes.
I mean,
I'm tired of it, man. I'm tired of seeing and hearing this bullshit.
How can I look at this? Well, there's a situation where but when somebody does has the term smartened up on how professional wrestling works, that, okay, then you got to decide when they do realize, when they are revealed to how it works, they join that bandwagon. How people even watch this then? So yeah, you do have to do that. Yeah, like for instance, I've used me for example. I found out everything
I can understand many different aspects and many different angles of it, Malcolm, but it's the people that do not exhibit the common sense that piss me off about this. Because even if they're an overly passionate fan, they still should have enough common sense to go, okay, I don't like this, but I guess it is what it is. No, and I think that's a generational thing too. I think it's the generational fact that now people are so pussified that now they literally feel like they should just be given everything on a silver platter in life. And this has been a serious life discussion that you and I have had so many different times, outside of these casts. You, me, Chris, our buddies Kyle and Ian, and so on and so forth. We've had all these different philosophical conversations about this particular subject, which is, the fact of, our generation and the generations before and the generations in the future, all combined, just, the entire generational gap period, just not giving a shit anymore, just feeling like, being, courteous or just being practically being a human being in general is not worth, really doing. And I'm sorry, I don't, I was raised old school. This is what I always tell people. I was raised old school. I know no other mentality than being old school. And my old school mentality, my old school upbringing, per se, does not dictate that I should rationally in every situation, just thrust myself, headlong and, take about 1 billion ass whoopings, go to jail about 5 or 6 times, or, just act out on my most, homicidal or violent thoughts. It's like we literally, we literally are now living in a generation, Malcolm, where people feel like they are entitled to everything. And I think, the fans in Philly are kind of the fans in Philly proved the point, that not even just wrestling, but just sports in general should ever closer, in my mind, to just being outlawed completely. Because apparently, I'm of the belief that when people do something bad, they should rightfully be punished for it. And I believe that all the bad, then I feel bad for the good sports fans who have to be punished for it. But you know what? To teach the bad ones that there are consequences to their actions, maybe the good, sports fans being punished will turn on the bad ones that are being punished. And that maybe, just maybe, and I think we lost the hangout. Yeah, guys, looks like the hangout just got lost. Don't know what happened there. Think think Malcolm kind of. I think Malcolm might have lagged out. Let's see what happened. Hang on, let me check Facebook real quick, guys. Sorry, gotta stop my tirade for a moment here. Well, this just got awkward. But anyway, no, I do believe that, yeah, the good sports fans will turn on the bad sports fans, and then maybe, life will, balance itself out. And, I realize that this makes me sound like the bad guy, in this situation. And honestly, I can't say that I'm not embracing my bad guy side because, let's face it, it gets pretty ridiculous that I have to say these things, that I have to go to such an extreme to admit that, okay, maybe sports needs to be on a suspension for now. Because I'll be honest, I'm not a sports fan, but I don't believe in cruel punishment. I never believe in cruel punishment, but in this case, I believe in this generation that, yeah, cruel punishment is the only way to get through to all the people that are not wanting to. Basically, basically it's the whole, if a kid acts bad, what do? You take away his toys. In the case of all these overzealous sports fans that feel like they need to celebrate or, get back at, all these promotions or teams or etc. that let them down, that disappointed them, that basically screwed them over, etc. Well, oh, I'm gonna block, traffic so that way, talent, can't get out, and and other people will have to suffer, because of their actions. No, the only person that should suffer is you, because you're an idiot for actually not only having people, be blocked and get back late to their hotel rooms or get back late from their road trip, so it's like 1 or 2 in the morning and they got to get up at like less than an hour or two or even 3 or 4, to go back to school or to go to work or whatever the case may be. Or in the case of bloggers, they got to basically pull an all-nighter, a coffee binge, to try to get their article done that they could have had done within a mere, 2 or 3 hours. But instead, you wanted to be a jackass and basically block traffic. So they're about 5 hours late getting back to their hotel